Welcome to Building Sustainability Podcast with me, your host, Jeffrey Hart, aka Jeffrey the Natural Builder. Every fortnight, join me as I talk to designers, builders, makers, dreamers and doers, exploring the wide world of sustainability in the built environment by talking to wonderful people who are doing excellent things. Hello and welcome. This is episode 90. Today, a conversation with Yoav Elkayam. So this is another crafty episode, and there's been a bit of a run of those. I think that when I was finishing my house, I certainly had quite a big burnout at the end of building my house. And the thought of talking about building specifically houses, and even the idea of going out to work on other projects seemed very, very far away from what I was able to do and sort of what my brain would let me do. At the end of the project, I think in true classic Grand Design style, I ran out of money pretty substantially. I got quite disheartened, I think, with just how long things were taking and how I've been building for over a year at this point, and I really wanted it to be done, and I could see how close it was to being finished, but that there was still so much. The lists were so long. I'm doing them on my own, so every task takes a long, long time. Yeah, it just ended up frustrating me. But then I did a final push at the end of July and put myself at the very maximum of all of my credit cards and overdrafts to finish, with the intention of spending the next couple of months renting it out as a holiday let, which I did. And for the first month in August, I actually rented it out, and then I went and camped in the woods, which felt like I won't lie. On the first night, I kind of was pretty devastated that I'd just finished my house, and the first people that were going to get to enjoy it were not me, but some guests, and the house would never be as perfect again. But quite quickly, in my time in the woods, I actually realised I was just having a blissful time, and there was very little care in my world. I made a fire, and I made coffee, and I turned things on the lathe, and I made spoons, and I cooked sausages on the fire, and it was simple life, and I loved it. So I think that very much swayed me towards feeling like craft was something that was really, really important at that time. And as tends to be the case with this podcast, I follow my nose sort of wherever is interesting at that moment. And that took me to multiple green woodworking events. It took me to the Woodland Pioneers of the coppicing episodes we did. I went to the bowl gathering where I spoke to John Mullaney, the last episode. And then I stayed on in the woods where the bowl gathering is in Brookhouse Woods in Herefordshire, and made a chair with help from Yoav the whole way. So yes, that's the podcast once again reflects where my brain is pointing. And I always feel a need to kind of justify that when I wander off a little bit into craft. This episode, I think, quite nicely dovetails. Yoav and Chris, Yoav's partner, have built their own cabin to house their growing family. You'll hear Yoav's story about doing earth floors. I think this one is very much a craft natural building crossover episode. And I think Yoav's methods, I think, are really interesting and hopefully really inspiring. And I do mention kind of later on in this episode that a focus of mine has maybe become looking at the way people are doing things differently. I think there's also a level of it's not climate anxiety, because I don't feel anxious about what the future might hold. It's climate rage. I think that the people with the power and the people with the ability to really make changes are not doing anything, and they're not listening to experts. And it seems all very business focused, and, business comes first, and forgetting people. So yes, I've been dealing with quite a lot of rage. And I think also, this has turned into quite a rant, sorry. Also, I've been reading Twitter quite a lot. And the people I follow are people big in the building science world, or passive house designers, or people in embodied carbon and things like that. And they all know the way that we could be making huge impacts through the built environment. The built environment's 40% of global emissions, and the answers are really obvious. But it feels like the decisions at a higher level, at the highest levels, really, never go the way that I feel they should, and it's exhausting. So step one, I think I've quit Twitter. Thanks, Elon, for making that decision really easy. But also I've been giving my brain a little rest from lots of things. That is to say, we are definitely coming back to a more focus on sort of building sustainability within the built environment. But yeah, we're taking a little meander, and hopefully you enjoy the meander and you come along with me and you're inspired by it. Hopefully you just don't think this podcast has gone rubbish. But anyway, that is a very long explanation as to why we went all craft for a little bit. Oh, before we get into this episode, I wanted to say, first of all, that I have also let the gender balance really slide. Various reasons for that. In the new year, got lots of fantastic female guests lined up. I'm really looking forward to addressing that balance. It's something I'm always conscious of. And in fact, I will be talking about this to one of the future guests. So stay tuned for that. Also, before we get into the episode, want to say a huge thank you to the new patrons. And they are both incredible spoon carvers. Viv Walker, who John Mulaney was talking about in the last episode, and Marianne McGinn. I'm a little bit intimidated because both of those have supported at the level where they are going to get a cent a spoon that I'm going to carve them. A little bit of pressure there. Also, big thanks to Joel Endersby, who has increased his amount so that he's now at the spoon level as well. So look out for that spoon, Joel, Viv and Marianne. I will be carving that sometime in the new year from some beautiful cherry that's just been taken down by the power company behind my house. On the Patreon, obviously all of the patrons support the podcast. They make it happen. Without them, I don't think I could still be doing this. If you'd like to join them, head to patreon.com/building sustainability, and I will be forever grateful, and you get a shout out on the podcast. And yeah, once again, thank you to everyone that supports. You are ace. Right. Final thing is that in this episode, just as we start recording, I noticed that the fridge was really loud and buzzing. So we turned it off, and we had to remember that the fridge was turned off. So I scribbled on the last question that I had, fridge, which sort of, it's a slightly strange end that we come to, talking about the fridge. Yeah, I had a really, really great time chatting to Yoav. I had a really great time making a chair. We chat a little bit about that. Do check out Woodland Makers for craft courses, and check out Yoav's work. He's just released a whole load of cups, which are utterly beautiful. I actually have a cup made by Yoav that is my everyday tea vessel, and it is an absolute joy. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm back very briefly at the end. Enjoy Yoav.
I make woodenware, mainly focusing on turned items in the last sort of 4 years. So cups, plates, bowls, and the likes. Used to do a lot of spoon carving, and that slowly shifted into a different direction. And when I was turning many years on a pole lathe, and last year I added a electric lathe to the arsenal of tools, and teaching, doing a lot of teaching, so same sort of focus, mainly turning on a pole lathe, but also quite a lot of sort of green woodworking standards like spatula carving, spoon carving, bowl carving, stool making, and dabbling in tasting chair making as well with you.
Nice. And what is it? Why do you want to make stuff out of wood? Is there some draw that you have?
I don't know. It's just so. It was a bit of a calling in a weird way. Living in Israel, being so distant from wood and wood culture, but somehow still falling in that rabbit hole just from like tasting it here in England when I was visiting. So I used to be quite a lot of England, just playing festivals with a band, and then in the festivals like doing spoon carving, meeting Robin Wood, seeing him turn, having Jojo around and carving a spoon, doing a course of like, I think it was like a plate carving or something random in Glastonbury, just really like standard sessions you'd find in the green fields, and just going back to Israel and like just being completely, looking under the carpet for like bits of wood I could find around. And because I came back every summer to England, every summer I'd sort of put a bit more focus and time to allow sort of playing with wood. And yeah, it just ended up taking over music in a way and replacing it, but also taking the same niche in my like heart and in my hands and brain, and sort of answers many similar things, I think, playing music and crafting.
Yeah. I think it takes the same kind of sort of almost obsessive mindset, doesn't it?
Exactly. As John Mulaney probably explains.
Yeah. So is there not much of was there not much of a scene in Israel?
There wasn't nothing I knew of back then. I think I met another Yoav, funnily enough, that was doing it. And I had a friend who was making mainly bushcraft axes and tools up in North Israel. But not so much like spoon carving as it looks today with Oren and Mikey, and there's a few sort of hot spots in Israel now that really gather a big community. But there wasn't any sense of community back then. So it was coming here and realizing there is a sense of community, and I think that aspect of it also drew me in. So obviously after being in Spoonfest for the first time and seeing like 200 people gather around and everybody being friendly and sharing and really good at what they're doing, that sort of was the breakthrough of like, okay, there's something going on here that I want to be a part of, and deepen my existence within that sort of.
Nice. I totally felt the same without the Israel bit.
we met in Spoonfest. Yeah?
We did, yeah.
And the queue.
That was it.
I recognised your face. Yeah.
I think you said, like, I follow you on Instagram. And it was the first time anyone had ever said that to me.
Aww.
And I was so flustered, I forgot to say, I also follow you. Yeah, actually, that first conversation, I think you told me about the earth floor you made.
Yeah. Was I probably still living in Israel back then?
Right.
Did I? Can't remember when it was. First few times I was in Spoonfest, I was still living in Israel.
Yeah.
But I don't think you were there enough.
I wasn't.
Anyway.
I'm not a super early adopter.
Good.
Just when it got really trendy.
It's much better now. Spoons back then were utterly. It was amazing to see, like, spoon in the first couple of Spoonfest, you can spot the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
because there were like 3 of them, and all the rest were just bad spoons. Whereas now it's the opposite, almost the opposite. Like everyone that used to be like a top name, it's like suddenly it's like all the youngsters and newcomers like whacking that amazing spoon. It's an amazing change. But yeah, the earthen floor, yeah, that was my first sort of natural building kind of thing. Yeah, I lived in a yurt in Israel, and it was on an OSB platform for 2 years, and it was really hot and really cold. Just didn't make sense and didn't work really well.
What's sort of the temperatures you get where you were?
Summers are like 40 in the 40s. So yeah, between like June and September, you get like some standard summers like 30, 35, and then you get, the odd weekend where it's 40 degrees and you can't even think about being inside.
Mm-hmm. Especially under canvas.
Yeah. Even with, that slight insulation that I had on the walls and on the ceiling, it was just not, it was fully exposed underneath I didn't have big trees or anything. So, decided to do an earthen floor, and then took down the yurt, and I told you the story, like put 2 or 3 weeks with nothing in my calendar, and then started building a retaining wall that had to be almost a meter high in the high point and about 20 or 30 centimeters on the other end. And it just took me ages. I had no idea what I'm doing. It was really hard. Invited a few friends to help, which didn't know what they're doing as well, and it just ended up being a mess. So it took a long time to build that retaining wall to be strong enough to support all the gravel that was filled. And then just doing like a batch of cob after a batch of cob, and just not, it was just so much material.
Mixing by foot?
Started by foot, and then after 2 days, got a small mixer, mm-hmm. which sped up things a little bit, but it was still like, you can't really, as you probably know, you can't do a big batch, and it takes a long time, and it's really slow spinning. And then it's not so fun anymore because it's quite loud and you're not doing the dance anymore. So it's like a bit of after a couple of days of when we already got to laying the mix on top of the gravel, even that, what I imagined to be really fun just turned into a really hard. I think also just the weather in Israel and like a mix of a few things made it really challenging. And I sort of regretted my ingenious idea.
Isn't that every building project?
Yeah, it's just like, what is it, like double the time and almost 3 times the money.
Yeah,
there's a standard sort of calculation if you want to hit the right point. Yeah, more or less. Money was as I thought, but the time was just like 4 times longer than it took me. 3 months. But then it worked really well.
Yeah. So you were using it predominantly as a heat regulator.
Yeah, so it kept cool even in the hottest days. And so it was still quite hot in the yurt, but walking barefoot on that floor was just lovely. And I remember many summer days just laying on the earthen floor, not being able to move, and just enjoying the coolness of it. So in that sense, it worked really well. But it was hard work for a yurt, which essentially, I built a yurt because I didn't own the land, and you want it to be sort of packable and then move on to the next spot. But after 2 years in that spot, I had a really good relationship with the landowner, and it felt like, if I'm going to invest, that was like, I think it cost like 300 quid-ish, like getting all the stones and gravel and sand. So it felt like a good investment. But it's not packable anymore. It's still there.
You didn't bring it with you?
No. I did think about it. My parents keep bringing like a suitcase full of gravel every time they come. But it's dates and tahini gravel rather
than. Nice. So we've sort of wandered off all over the place there, but I'm interested in this. That there's a feeling that I have, which is that craft. There's a link between craft and sustainability, And I don't know whether that's because I'm interested in craft and sustainability and I'm finding that link, or there genuinely is. I'm interested to know if you think there's a connection.
Do you want to lay down what you think your
All right, yeah.
perspective is?
So I think when I'm talking craft, I think I'm particularly talking woodcraft, sort of the green woodworking world especially, as opposed to, sort of knitting or something. Like someone described it as village hall craft.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the more you get into wood and making things from wood, you start to recognize the trees, you spend more time in the trees, you care about their protection, I think it gets you sort of more into nature. And yeah, you protect more what you know, I think.
Yeah, I guess I sort of agree and disagree, and we can take it in two different directions. Like I always find it really interesting discovering, like, coppicing and woodland management in the UK in the first few years felt like really a weird concept of like, the woodland does not need management kind of approach. Just let it be and it'll be fine, just as it was for many years. So I think that still, I now fully understand the benefits of woodland management and coppicing. I don't know if fully understand is maybe exaggerated, but I understand some of the benefits in the approach that people like Toby and Ali and people that are around here sort of I see in their work. In order to use, if you want to use wood, then you need to manage woodland in order to be sustainable for the woodland and for the whoever's producing the produce. But I think that still sneaks into my mind every once in a while, like being here in a woodland workshop, like wondering if is it more sustainable than not doing it? Felling trees here will still be done, and whether we're here or not, because the farm uses a lot of firewood in the glamping business, and we use firewood, and then we just choose one tree a year for chairs and stools, and one tree a year which is ash, and then another cherry tree for most of the rest of the crafting. So we're not making a huge impact. If it was only us without the firewood, I think it would definitely.
Don't think you could call that a managed woodland, taking out 2 trees a year.
Yeah, it's not managed, but with the firewood, I guess it does make this woodland produce quite a lot of material in a sustainable way. But I think if you add on top of that the dimension of the people involved and the well-being of people and the economical sort of freedom and opportunity it brings me and us as a sort of collective of makers and tutors that come here, and bowl gathering and all sorts of stuff on top, then I think I get a better sort of feeling towards, like, okay, this is something that is sustainable. The woodland is still here. A lot of, from surveys and stuff, it looks like it's doing really well. A lot of animals, a lot of bats, a lot of things that thrive here, and a big community that is drawn to the place. So yeah, I think the sustainability for me, when it all adds up to the community and the people around it, I think that I see it more clearly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, maybe like the swapping the wooden spoon by a wooden plastic spoon, not a wooden plastic spoon, that's not right. By a plastic spoon. I don't think that's where the change is coming, but I think by having people spend more time outdoors, creating a community that they feel creative and happy, and this sort of sharing of skills that we absorb, and
yeah, I think it's quite a rare thing in modern society to share so much. I think that's, it's sort of driven out of our sort of culture. This existence is what do they call it? Just counterculture.
I think that way Spoonfest and ball gathering and events like that sort of sell so quickly. I think it's so, I definitely noticed the spread of it into more and more people's life that are not in that niche so much, but they still want to be a part of these sort of events. And I think those two events and many more, obviously, are like the proof that it is slowly getting its recognition from people that are outside the circle and widening the circle.
Yeah. And you said, swapping out, if someone's choosing to buy a wooden spoon over a plastic or a metal spoon, that's maybe not the big sustainability key. But I think there is also something in, I don't know, there's some sort of groundedness that comes from connecting with wooden objects that I think has a sort of magnifying effect. It's sort of that spoon in your hand connects you to the trees outside and gets you more interested and might lead you down into foraging, might lead you down into something else.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm sure that's the case too, in some ways. I think people coming on courses and split a bit of wood to make a bow blank or a spoon blank or whatever, and then asking, what 5 minutes in, it's like, what tree is it? And so
does it matter?
Yeah.
What difference does it make?
And then answering and going to the woods and spotting, that's a cherry tree, that's an ash tree. Come, I'll show you where this cherry tree was felled, and being able to everything is like walking distance from the workshop, and potentially trees that last year people saw from within the workshop, and suddenly that tree isn't there anymore and it's being used that season. I think that's quite a special connection that you don't really get with many other crafts. Maybe with knitting, if
you see the sheep, you make the wool.
Yeah, I think there's all sorts of. It depends how far you want to take each craft and how deep you want to go in. People buy bow blanks on the internet. People buy spoon blanks from me or other people, and I think there's each one to his capability and sort of position in the geographical position as well.
Yeah. Talking about the workshop, Woodland Makers.
Yeah.
So what stuff are people coming here to learn?
So we do. Well, it's me and Will Sinclair, which is a dear friend and a very amazing woodworker. He's not been able to do much the last few years, but he's been teaching mainly chair making and the stool making here, and then I do the bowl turning and some carving with the spatulas and introduction to green woodworking. And then with the Woodland Makers, it was really a way to incorporate more friends and people that were interested in their craft. So we created a sort of a bigger name than Will or me, which can sort of encompass.
Yeah.
Include many other makers, either on a regular basis or just a one-off kind of thing. So quite a lot of basket making this year. What else did we have? Hat weaving is tomorrow. Yeah. Tray making. Yeah, just a lot of sort of crafts that none of us really do on a regular basis, but we're all interested in. Anyway, people like John Mulaney, who can do anything really.
But it's nice, isn't it? Like you were saying about the hat weaving, that's come about because you wanted to weave a hat.
Yeah.
So you put it on a course.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's mine and Will sort of craft fantasy. What do we want to do, and who do we want to bring over to teach us that thing? And yeah, it's been sort of, it's not the first year, but it's been a slow start. So every year just trying a bit to do things a bit better and widen sort of the array of options that are interesting for us. And I think it's just like, it feels like just the beginning. And as our kids sort of grow a bit, I think we'll have more time to really invest in the workshop and what it can bring us and all the people that sort of are involved, whether it be tutors or participants. And yeah, this year the feedback was really good. A lot of really successful courses. It was great.
Well, I think everyone imagines that they're going to go on a course to make a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think often it's not, like, that's often not the best thing about going on a course. Like, what do you think are some of the other things, or what have you seen other people kind of learn or sort of react to that's been outside of the actual project?
It's a crazy, like to see grown-ups back in the, to see capable and competent grown-up people that are amazing in something be so vulnerable and like put themselves in a position where they're going to be complete beginners. Some people come here, on a bowl turning weekend, have never seen a bowl being turned on a pole lathe, never swung an axe, never used a knife. And just, I think the last course I was teaching, I started the opening talk by saying, like, or was it maybe the closing talk, just adding that as a point of, because people said I was struggling. Yeah, it was the end of the course. Like, I didn't think it would be so hard, and I was struggling, and thank you for being so patient for me. But actually, I ended up by saying, like, well, I'm in a easy position. Like, you came to, my comfort zone, essentially. I know what I'm doing, and you became, so vulnerable and so open to be taught, which is really, really amazing. So I think a lot of people don't expect it to be so hard, thinking, I'm just coming on a bowl turning course, I'll make a bowl. Asking how many bowls we're going to turn this weekend is a very common sort of first question. And then trying to, I guess each teacher is going to say things differently, but for me, it's definitely with turning, it's more about you learning how to use the tools, and then the bowl is sort of a side product. That being said, tomorrow we joining a hat weaving course, and I just want to make a hat. So it's so weird how you can be on both of those sides, but I know I'm going to struggle, and I know it's not going to be as nice as Rosie's hats. But I'm not really so interested. I don't think I'm going to be a hat maker or a basket weaver or do anything with rush. So I think that's the two sides of the spectrum. It's like people want to come on a weekend, make the thing, and never do it again, knowingly. And some people come maybe with a bit of an open, really want to dive into something. They're not sure if this is the thing. Come and learn the skill, and then just have a taster without being too worried about this end product. So when I teach, I'm definitely on that side of, showing the way, and which is easier. And then, I think this weekend I'm going to understand the other side of it, of I just want to give Chris a nice hat.
I'm looking forward to seeing you frustrated.
Yeah.
You've seen me on the lathe going like, ah!
I don't think it was so frustrated. But I think being on both sides really help, and that's why I'm trying every year to do, a course or be dipping my toes into something that I'm not familiar with, because it's a good reminder of how people feel all the time in the workshop. It's really humbling, and it's great. It's lovely having facilitate that learning environment and try and keep people in a good mood through the struggles.
Do you was teaching something you sort of set out to do? Was it, or is it it's come about from necessity or...
We'll be back after a quick break.
If you're looking for all things BMX racing, you've found the right podcast. Here at Lane 8 BMX Podcast, I'll speak to the local racer, the national racer, and even the Olympic level racers. I'm talking kids to the weekend warriors and much more. So get comfortable, turn up the volume, and remember to snap on green.
I think it went hand in hand with how I got here to Brookhouse Wood. So I wasn't planning when I started turning. I just wanted to turn bowls, and then back then there weren't loads of people teaching, so there were a handful of options. So that always seemed like maybe there is a place there for me if I get better. And then I think when I was turning 3 or 4 years, me and Will met and decided we want to get people over to build lathes. So it was like sort of a no-brainer, really. Like I was trying to guide people in the last day after they finished building the lathe, how to use the tools and then go back home and turn. So that was my first experience, which was pretty full on, like a week of Will doing most of the guiding the lathe build, and I was then forging the tools and getting people to turn. And it was really, I think I was a horrible teacher. And, didn't have enough experience and wasn't yet forging good enough tools and making nice bowls. But it felt nice, like you need to start somewhere kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I really enjoyed it. It was lovely. And I think from that sort of first course teaching, I think it really made me want to be a better teacher, and then hand in hand with, improving my own skills and turning nicer things. And now I love it. And I love the change of seasons and the change of what I do because of the teaching and making combo, whereas I only teach in the summers. Right.
So so it's mid-September now, so you're sort of heading into just making territory.
Yeah, so October. I teach like one-on-one, the occasional one-on-one, so probably like 2 or 3 sessions a month. But yeah, mainly making up to like April, really.
Nice.
It's great. Like a lot of people now, I feel, after the bowl gathering and a few more courses now, it just feels like so saturated with people. Which was, it's a lovely feeling to have, but also it's like, okay, I'm ready for a quieter time, just me and a bit of wood.
Mm-hmm. Sharp tool, bit of wood.
Yeah. Nothing quite like it.
Look, I want to get geeky about teaching a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, I was on bowl gathering course with you, learning plate turning. And I noticed, I'll go back a bit. So I always think of teaching as in like you've got to speak to the doers, the thinkers, and the watchers. Is kind of the very basic learning styles. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that. Well, I've been on certain courses recently where people completely ignored the doers. Like they kind of felt like because they were teaching, they had to show and talk, and then they sort of neglected just letting people play. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that with your teaching, it's very much sort of towards the just getting involved, mm-hmm. and maybe even sort of struggling a bit and sort of coming through it by sort of experimenting. Mm-hmm. Is that a conscious thing?
Yeah. I think again, it's like it's interesting that because it was a weird course that in the ball gathering one.
You had quite a split, didn't you? In talent.
Yeah.
That's not the right word.
So there was a first
inability.
No, you can say talent.
No, I didn't mean it.
Some people are just more. But yeah, there was like complete beginners, and then you and Jay, which are, very competent bolt turners or cup turners or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not the standard sort of. I usually do either or really, or I try, and I think I tried. I don't know why, but I thought it'll be mostly experienced turners on that course, but obviously it's not. I mean, it looks like it's not obvious that plate turning is a bit more advanced than ball turning. So it was interesting. But yeah, definitely. So I do, my usual thing is just walking around each one. So gather in the morning, speak about what we're going to do, hand like the basic, my basic approach to a certain project, and then just let people get on with it and do a slow round of walking in between each one and trying to figure out where each person is. Mm-hmm. And then I think also part of it is also figuring out how much people want me to be involved in their own project, which is so tricky. If people don't tell you, it's like, oh, I don't want you to touch my thing, or I want you to help me as much as you can because I'm struggling. And usually people don't vocalize that. You sort of need to see from, if you stand next to them and they sort of hand you the tool, you want me to turn a little bit? Yes, please. Or, people sort of grab the tool quite hard and don't really move from their position. When you go to them, then it's like, okay, this person wants to stay on the lathe. I'll try and explain it in words and step away again. So yeah, I love that. I love like trying to judge people immediately without knowing them. And I love it when I get it right, and when the feedback in the end of the day is like, I really enjoy the fact that I did all of it and I was struggling and you let me struggle, or the opposite of but I definitely get it wrong as well sometimes. So yeah, I think
I always found in teaching spoon carving, like certainly when you into the axing, there's like a face that people pull when they're like, I'm exhausted and this is going on forever.
Well,
just make it stop. It's like, would you like a hand? Yes.
And I think that comes back many times to what we said before, like some people want to come and make a plate or a spoon and go back home. And some people are there because they want to go back home and make a set of plates for a friend. And they now want to understand how to do it. So I think it's the mix of those two things and many other that each person brings his own sort of wish to a course, and you need to, as a teacher, I think a big part is assessing openly, and I think that's a good thing too. That's why I love doing like opening talks and closing talks, because that's how you know what people want and if you did a good job or not. Like being open to a bad feedback or to not bad feedback, but constructive. And then next course, it's like, okay, I won't do this again. Thank you for saying. And I think every course I get at least one pointer like that sort of helps me articulate my teaching for the next thing. Yeah, thank you for that, man.
Oh yeah.
If there was
it's interesting. I mean, it was. I think because it was in stark contrast to like the course I'd been on before, something completely different. That teacher spoke a lot and demonstrated a lot. So it was like, didn't really let people struggle.
Yeah.
That sort of sounds bad.
Was
Experiment.
it a day course or a longer?
It was actually quite a short course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it, no? Like, I don't know if you felt... Have you ever taught... I mean, you did the building stuff, which was really long term.
Long, yeah.
But have you done like a spoon carving, which is more than a day?
Not that's more than a day, no.
I wonder if that makes because for me, like a day ball turning is a short course. So I wonder if there's a difference there between having people over for a weekend or a week, or as you know, a couple of months working with the same people, where you're trying to build up a skill.
Yeah. And
a day where you want people to go with something in their hand and knowledge. So how do you how do you find that balance there? I guess that sort of changes things as well, like laying down a way of teaching one day, half a day, a weekend, and a week will be probably different.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that. That was a total tangent on teaching.
Yet again.
So we were talking about the Woodland Makers. I have just spent the last week hanging out here, making a chair.
Have you?
Have I?
Have I? Oh, what's happening? Why are you sitting on the floor then?
I haven't quite finished it.
Almost. I think you can sit on it now. Just a sloppy weave.
Yeah, soon to be finished. It was fascinating, like in my brain, to be thinking about process and like how much you take in and how process develops. Like it's my first chair, and so I'm sort of concentrating on this and I'm concentrating on that, and then design details kind of like drift off, and I've sort of taken my eye off the ball. So it's been a fascinating process for me to really sort of be doing something new.
You're saying letting go of the design because you followed Mike's design.
Yeah, I think there's a few elements where I probably would have liked to have done it better and thought about it more. I think we said earlier in the week, it's like, it's your first thing. And there's a lot of people that get very hung up on the thing being perfect.
Yeah, making your first thing perfect and never doing it again.
I'd much rather learn how to do many more.
Yeah, I think you did well. Like, sort of get on with it kind of thing. Make it as nice as you can in a known sort of limit of time. And then at whatever point you're at, we said in the beginning of the week that it would be good to get it squeezed by Friday, and that's what happened, kind of thing. Yeah, definitely.
It was dark, but that doesn't matter.
Didn't put a peg in the wrong place. But I think, that for me, that's the best sort of, that's how I try and do things as well. Like faff around within a limit, a known limit. So not just do it quickly, and when it's in the right shape, that's it, and move to the next step. But not, try and make it as good as I can, but also not get too hung up on making it perfect at any given time. Not the first, and probably not the 50th as well. Yeah.
Do you sort of apply that to developing your craft? Trying out new cup designs or something.
Yeah, I think that's how I still do everything. Like trying to get it as good as I can within a reasonable sort of limit. So if I know if I'm turning a cup in half an hour, then I'm taking half an hour to faff around and get it as good as I can. And at some point, I'm not looking at the clock, but at some point it's either right, I'm stopping turning this because it's not going in the right direction, and chucking it in the pile and starting again with maybe a clear idea. Or if it's a design that I've been doing before, and it's sort of an iteration and a design that I'm also already comfortable with, then it's a lot of like, well, it's not my best one, but I'm happy with it and move on kind of thing. I think it's a combination of trying to make a living from it, but also a bit my personality. Like, I just can't be bothered getting stuck on one thing for too long. That's why I like small objects for now. Even though I am thinking more and more about bigger stuff.
Like what?
I don't know. Like a few things. I've been speaking with Dawson Moore, Michigan Sloyd, on Instagram. The guy from Michigan.
Right. Who does Sloyd?
Which he used to be like mainly doing spoon carving and spoon murals and stuff like that. He's shifted into chair making, and now slowly shifting into a bit more maybe art and free. And I find it quite compelling. I think I was so anti-arty kind of thing when I started. I was really like, craft. It needs to be real. It needs to be usable. It needs to be relatively cheap. And I still believe most of that, but also I'm getting more and more interested in the freedom that maybe not thinking about how it's going to be used can change what I make and potentially what I earn as well. That's, I think, also a part of it. Like making a lot of things and selling them for 40, 50 quid against is quite a difficult way of making a living, I think, as a self-employed kind of thing. And every hour, it makes every hour count as well, because in an hour you can make 2 cups, so why are you sitting around here?
Why are you drinking tea?
Yeah, why are you stopping? Whereas if, and that's a lot of things that from speaking with Dawson, I think, sort of made sense to why I'm feeling a certain way. He put it in words that I understood and related to, and suddenly making a chair that takes 100 hours, well, you're not going to be counting the hours anymore so much, and you finished, a long time on one project, but then you sort of get that income and that sort of release of. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, a bit like selling, building a tiny home for a couple of months and then selling it and then starting a new one.
If only it took a couple of months.
Yeah, not yours, but most people.
Great. I love we've totally gone on another tangent.
Can just chuck that on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, just doesn't matter. Fridge.
Fridge. We're done. So you've got a thing, the Welcome Project.
Oh yeah.
What's that about?
So that's opening up the workshop to people that wouldn't necessarily be able to afford or even think about coming to do a woodworking course. Mainly focusing at the minute groups of through two NGOs, just asylum seekers and refugees. A lot of it is to do with Chris being behind the scene, doing the phone calls and emails and organising it, and then the ball gathering raffle. We do a big raffle, and that money goes into getting these people over, providing the transportation they need. A lot of them are from around Birmingham and Wolverhampton so far. So getting transport here and food, and then the materials and tuition, and essentially some courses we just bought them the space. Some there were a few groups that they just came as a family or as a group of friends. 4 or 5 friends came and made a stool, and then a family came for a weekend of. They just wanted to cook really, but we ended up making a few spoons in stool. So people just enjoying just sitting here, lighting a fire and cooking together and chatting, telling their stories in a different environment. They're used to just breaking that routine. Yeah. So yeah, that's something it's similar to the wooden makers in the sense it's just starting off. And every year we're getting a bit more money and trying to use it in a smarter way and in a more interesting way for everybody, for us and for whoever we're inviting. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
What sort of reaction do you get from the people coming?
Same like most people that just come here. It's like how lovely it is to be here and not in Wolverhampton or Birmingham city centre. Just if most people are, they have an okay sort of status of life, or they have an apartment. They get some support from either from the government or from the NGOs. They're working in to enough money to get them through their life. But it's just that constant thinking about that scramble that goes in your brain about your situation, about your past story, about what will the future bring. And I think coming here just eliminates that, whether you're asylum seeker or not. I don't think it really matters. And I think we understand that the more people come here from any background. It's just everybody just enjoys it in a very similar way of just that sort of primal outdoor fire, carve a stick kind of thing.
Yeah. There is something really special about cooking on a fire, isn't there? That is
smoke in your eyes,
going,
smelly clothes,
going back out into the real world afterwards.
Yeah, we had yesterday. It was really funny. We had a couple walking through the workshop, smelling from perfume and new clothes, and it's the first time that all of us felt like, "What? Oh, you smell really weird." What is that? And they were almost apologetic by like walking around with clean clothes.
Yeah. A complete role reversal. Yes. I think I wanted to ask a little bit. I've written nurturing talent. The talent appears to be a word I'm using at the moment. But you have, like, there's opportunities for people, isn't there, to sort of come as you don't do apprenticeships anymore, do you?
Not really. I don't think we ever did apprenticeship yet.
No.
I think we called it apprenticeship. I don't think it was really apprenticeship.
Okay.
So assisting. Yeah, because mainly it depends on the individual, but most of what is required and done here is just assisting on courses. Not so much on the craft front, but more on the facilitating.
Right.
So assisting whoever's teaching the course to not worry about tea and food, firewood, kind of thing. And then also, sighting and chair making and helping to cleave if somebody is struggling with some bits. But it's an area that I'm interested to open up more and more as we become more familiar with just the baseline of running courses. And so I'm really I'm interested in like a longer term, sort of 6 months apprenticeship. But I don't think we had it yet. I think it'll require more input from us, which we can't really give at the minute. But I had a lot of people coming in and having like unofficial tuition in between other things, and then letting them use the workshop facilities and wooden lathes and tools and stuff. And Rosie this year was really brilliant in many ways, but she had a part-time job to go along with it, so she wasn't really available for many craft things. But she ended up making a stool and starting a chair. So there are, but it's far from apprenticeship, I think.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to open up that venue in maybe next year, or more likely in 2 or 3 years, and call it apprenticeship as well, rather than assisting.
Nice, yeah. I don't know really where I was going with that. Your thing around the company you were leading, or partly leading, was it an apprenticeship? Yeah, I think we shied away from calling it an apprenticeship, but we also shied away from calling it an internship because people shouted at us.
There's just expectations with naming something a specific thing.
Yeah.
It's like puts pressure on both sides too.
Absolutely. I think we ended up just calling them students because they were learning.
Yeah.
So,
and it's that tricky combination of like teaching, getting a walk done, and keeping your sanity kind of combo.
Yeah. We might have managed 2 of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to choose which one?
Sanity was always the last one to get looked after.
That's what I think as well here. It's like so hard finding that balance between all the elements that you need to have a successful apprenticeship, or all sides need to sort of benefit from it, and it's a tricky balance.
So part of my sort of focus with the podcast at the moment is showing people alternative ways of life and kind of how maybe like the sort of mainstream, what am I trying to say? You've got what I would describe as an alternative lifestyle here. You live in the woods. You've built a little cabin. Yeah, I mean, did you ever have a 9 to 5 life? And
I think I was dabbling with it. Like I was dabbling. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, I just keep saying things that I don't know where they
open mouth.
Yeah,
Let words fall out.
Not really, but I was in and out of it for a couple of years back. When I was 18 and sort of, I didn't join the army, so I was expected to, go to work and.
Because of is it military service?
Yeah,
is that what it's called?
So I didn't do service in Israel, which is mandatory unless you find a way to go out, and then. So I volunteered for almost a year in a project where I was including like farming with kids from rough neighborhoods, and then that was sort of my gift to the country, and then I was sort of expected from my parents in a supportive way, but it's like, well, okay, you need to find a job and do a thing as you would. So I was, it was when I was really young. So the first few jobs were definitely like a 9 to 5. I worked as a dishwasher in a restaurant, and then as was cooking in a restaurant, and then as a bartender for a bit. Just sort of first jobs kind of things for a couple of years. And I really remember clearly, like I went to a job interview, or was it? No, it was like first day at the job, and then I realized that the boss was just like being an ass, and I didn't want to work there. And then coming back and telling my mom, it's like, she said, how was it? I said, I'm not going to work there. The boss isn't. So, this is how bosses are. This is how it's going to be your whole life, probably. And I sort of, in my mind, saying, no, it's not going to be.
Not for me.
Not for me. And I was always playing, back then I was deep in the music. So I was trying to find a way of making a living playing music. And then it's pretty, took a couple of like years of being back and forth in my parents' house, then renting a place, and then making enough money from gigs to pay the rent, and then having a dry couple of months and coming back to a friend or two, or back to my parents, back and forth. But I think pretty early on it was like trying to run away from that sort of standard. And it was always dictated by paying the lowest rent I can. I think that was the solution I found. And then building a yurt and not paying rent at all, just giving a day's work a week. Similar, is that how you
Very similar,
yeah.
Yeah, been striving sort of harder and harder to reduce my cost of living to sort of free me up from having to work.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is a very privileged position.
Also, it's just an alternative way of looking at things, or rather like living. Yeah, it's just like, how can I not start my month with a minus grand in my pocket? So I think that was the main thing since I was 22, I think.
Nice. And you did the van life thing.
Yeah.
How long was that for?
So van life was almost 4 years.
Right, a good stretch.
Yeah, there was backpacking for 2 years in England, and then got enough money to buy the van. Did it up pretty quickly and cheaply, and then lived that for 3.5 years. 3.5 years.
Yeah, and that was sort of when you were transitioning into craft as a career.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the right word. But...
Semi, yeah. I still don't know if that's the right word. Yeah,
the thing that you do.
And then ended up parking here with a van most summers, which was really convenient for everybody. Like the farmers didn't mind because I was just in a van, and Wood and Penny were happy with me being around and using the workshop and doing some teaching. And then I met Chris at some point in those years living in the van, and pretty quickly got together and sort of decided we want to live together. And I mean, she immediately just moved into, we met in Israel, essentially moved in where she was living in for 2 months there. And then both of us left Israel again. She went back to Germany, I came to England. We met again in the van, and we essentially moved in and decided we want to live together and have a family. And got pregnant, and then just before we had Yali, our first daughter, we built this cabin, or finished the first section of this cabin, which is next to the workshop.
Nice. I mean, this cabin, where we're at now, it's very different from that initial cabin. Like, how is it developed? Or what was it originally?
So originally it was like a 12 square meters. So 4 meters by 3 cabin that was, we put the frames up and the roof in development week, which is like a volunteering kind of week we do in the woods every year. And the purpose of this cabin was a cabin for the assistant, for the yearly assistant. So we got just 2 main frames, round wood frames, and a roof, and then started doing the cordwood wall on the back, and stopped there just because it was the end of the season. Then me and Chris lived in a van and sort of thought about maybe we can finish building the cabin and move in there. And Chris said she doesn't want to because it's dark in the woods and the cabin is tiny. But then it sort of made more sense than staying in the van. So we finished it off. So we paid the materials to finish it off and did all the work, thinking we'll just be here for 6 months. Yeah, sure. Just
Classic.
Have a baby and then move out. Right. I think Will and Penny, when we ask them if they think it's a good idea and if it's okay, and with the farmers, they all sort of knew that it's probably, we probably won't move out. I think we genuinely thought we were going to be moving out and living maybe in Portugal or somewhere sunny. So we moved into like a really, it was when you came, I think there was the deck was just being closed and the cabin was like still dark. It was really nice, but it was a cave. It felt like a small protective cave.
Mm-hmm.
And then just before Yali started crawling and standing, we closed the deck we had attached to it, which is another 4x3. So we had like 2 rooms and opened up, and that's when you came and visit.
Yep.
And that was still looking quite different. And then we added another bedroom. So now it was like 36 square meters.
Mm-hmm.
And then had another baby, and then added another bedroom. So it's started really differently with a completely no view into the future, thinking we'll ever make this into our home, and it ended up being a lovely home, very different to our ideal. If we had to sketch anything out, it would be completely different, but I think it just made sense the way we did it, and the timing and the money and work load combination. It's sort of it's surprisingly fitting us, just because it was built in there as the family grew and our needs changed.
And was it literally like, we've got a bit of extra money now, we can afford to put on the luxury of a bedroom?
I think we didn't need the space, so every time we grew it was because we felt, okay, this is getting tight, and when Yali starts running and jumping around, or just having our parents over for dinner or friends, we felt in the beginning we can't really have anybody here. It felt just so tight. So a combination of having money from the season, and we always built in the winter, so when we have a bit more money and time. Every time it's like, okay, we can afford this, we've got the time, and we have the need, most importantly, to we just felt like, okay, we really need another bedroom now where, we can, walk around in the kitchen and not just sit on the bed while eating all our meals.
I suppose the alternative is that you live in something small for much longer while you save up or go into debt to build, the sort of what
Dream.
you imagine the space you'll need.
Yeah.
Do you think, would you recommend this way?
Well, I don't know. I think in many ways it makes so much sense. Like, don't have more space than you need and then add up as much as you need and can afford. So again, I think it goes back to like living as cheaply as you can. So I wouldn't want to get in debt for building the place. But it also dictates, to some degree, you need to maybe, we lost that ideal house we had in our imagination because we had to deal with a sort of reality of each year and what it brought money-wise and time-wise and, family. So, having a new baby, having a limited amount of money means that you need to build a new room in a fairly quick way. That means, for us it was just stud, having good insulation, but the stud walls.
What's your insulation?
Super soft.
Oh, is that the recycled bottle stuff?
It's really nice to handle. A bit cheaper than the wool, but I think we're really happy with how it behaves. And we got one small wood burner that does the whole house, and then another. The new bedroom is sort of semi-detached in a way, so we had added another small burner there just to keep, just in the middle of the winter, use it. So yeah, it's really, I think the low ceiling works quite good. So one burner, that super soft, low ceiling, relatively still small space.
Yeah,
I think makes it work really well for us and cut all the costs of. We got a tiny solar system. We don't use loads of firewood and gas for cooking and stuff, and that's it really.
Nice. Is there anything you'd have done differently?
Not have a window in the middle of the dividing wall to the.
I suppose that's part of it, the expanding process, isn't it?
So yeah, having an external wall suddenly becoming an internal wall is quite. But I think it's all things that are easily, if ever it becomes a problem, we can change it again. That's the beauty, I guess, of stud walls. Sort of take down the cladding and just change the stud. So yeah, a few things that we would do different. Maybe not have the. I love the light from the polycarbonate roof. I would probably save up a bit and I would get glass if I could. Like how do you call that? Strong glass.
Strong. Oh yeah, strong glass.
Strong glass.
Toughened glass.
Toughened.
Yeah.
Instead, because the rain is really loud on the polycarbonate.
I suppose you get a little bit of insulation from it being that kind of hollow stuff.
But would it be the same with like a double glazed toughened glass, I guess?
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know how they compare. I mean, it does do a really great job. I know you were saying, it's dark. It felt like a dark cave. This is a very...
Not anymore. Yeah, so we opened the cordwood wall and made that into an entrance because that was the south facing. Put a big glass door and glass window, added a skylight. Decided to stop cladding all the walls in wood. Have quite a lot of white wherever we can. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, and we hardly use any electricity during the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you've just got a fridge.
Yeah, just got a fridge. Which is amazing after, I don't know how many years. Like 7 years without a fridge. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like for someone, if anyone's
You
listening,
got a fridge. You have a fridge.
Yeah. I chose not to use it very much on the boat because it was gas and it was just a bit smelly and rubbish. But yeah, the joy of being able to have
What? Have what?
Well, having frozen peas in the freezer is
Frozen peas? Is that your... That is amazing. Frozen peas. I mean, I don't think mine is any better, but...
What's yours?
Cold yogurt.
Oh, nice.
Cold, not like room temperature yogurt. I hate that. But yeah, peas.
Yeah. I think, generally I would do such a small shop when I was on the boat. It was like, you buy enough so that because you're just leaving it either outside or like on the side, that it doesn't go off. And, so now I can actually buy some shopping.
Yeah, and same here. It's needing to go once a week rather than like every 3 days.
Yep.
Or 3 times a week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cold peas. Yes. I'll remember that next time I'm in the shop. I'm going to buy peas just so Jeffrey can have some next time he comes and visits.
Yes. There's people listening who've not ever lived without a fridge. Yeah. They're like, who
Don't
knew?
know the joy of
peas.
cold peas. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I think that's probably it. We're going to end on cold peas.
Yeah, cold peas.
In the fridge.
In the fridge.
Turn the fridge back on. You'll be very pleased to know we remembered to turn the fridge back on. Thank you so much to Yoav. Really, really great hanging out. Very, very much appreciated his expertise. Appreciated him showing me around his cabin and talking so beautifully and clearly about all the processes from craft to building to life. So yes, do go and check out Yoav's work. There will of course be a link in the show notes. Along with the other people who got a mention in this episode. So they include Robin Wood, Jojo Wood, Toby and Ali, whose company is Say It With Wood. A lot of wood here. Woodland Makers, Michigan Sloyd. There's a few others that I'll chuck in there as well. The Bowl Gathering, obviously. Do dig into those if that's something you don't normally do. There is lots of resources to be more inspired by. That is it from me. I just want to say that the next episode will be the Christmas episode. I've booked an incredible guest. I'm very much excited to share that with you. Slightly tongue-in-cheek, but you'll see next time you see an episode. I hope you're all well. I am feeling a lot better. I don't know if you got it from my rant at the beginning, but I was feeling quite broken, sort of mid to late summer, and I feel like life is slotting back together again quite nicely. So yeah, thanks. Yeah, everyone, thanks. And there's do you know what? I've had so many people contacting me recently and saying lovely things about the podcast and what it's enabled them to do. And I try to reply to all of them, but if you're one of the people that I didn't manage it, then please don't take it personally. It's just that sometimes your messages actually really overwhelm me in like a really good way, and they deserve a really solid response. And it feels like a bit too much to be able to do that. I hope that makes it some way understandable. Yeah, I've waffled a lot today. Until next time, see you, bye.